Today's lesson is on circles and circumference. So let's take a look at what circumference is. Well, circumference is a distance around a circle. So distance around a circle. And so there's a little formula we have for circumference, and it goes this way. It's diameter times by pi. And we'll say equals the circumference c. So c equals diameter times pi. Now sometimes we don't have the diameter. Sometimes we have the radius. And so we can always find the diameter by multiplying the radius by 2. So we could end up using this. 2 times the radius times by pi also equals the circumference. Now, a few different ways to use pi. We're going to talk about that today. We can either use the decimal approximation of 3.14, or we could end up using this fraction approximation of 22/7, and we'll talk about when to use each. So let's take a look at the first set of questions that you'll see. Point G, so point G is right here, is the center of the circle. Use it to answer each question. Name the circle. Well, you name a circle by its center. So the name of the circle is G. And so that's all you have. So maybe even write down circle G. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. I'll write down circle out in front so we know we're talking about a circle here. So circle G is the name of that circle. Now we have a diameter. Diameter goes all the way across the circle through the center. So notice how HJ goes from one side of the circle all the way to the other side of the circle. But notice it passes through the center at G. So the diameter, we would say, is HJ. And we'll go ahead and put a little hat on top showing that that's a line segment and it stops at H, or starts at H and stops at J. Name 3 radii. Radii is the plural form for radius. And so radius goes from the curve of the circle to the center. And so there's 3 of them. We could start with saying GH. That's one of them. So from G to H. And then G to K is another. And then our last one would be G to J. G, J. Notice that I have the hat on top. So again, it goes from the center to the curve of the circle. Center to the curve of the circle. Center to the curve of the circle. Well, looking at number 4, talks about a builder is putting in a circular window. Find the circumference by using 22/7 as an estimate for pi. What is the circumference if the diameter is 10 feet? Well, they're giving us the diameter, so we know that our formula goes this way, diameter times by pi. So that's our formula that we're going to end up using, so we're going to place the number that we have for the diameter. It says the diameter is 10 feet, so we're going to put 10 in place of D. Now, this is the exact answer, 10 pi, but now we're going to approximate what pi is. And pi approximation is 22/7, and that's the one they want us to use this time. So 10 times by 22/7. Typically I use 22/7 when I can divide 7 into the number. Can't do that in this case, but that's okay. They told us to use it, so we'll go ahead and do that. So no cross canceling here. I wrote this 10 as a fraction so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to multiply across. I'm going to do 22 with a 0 at the end. So 220 is what you get when you multiply 10 by 22 all over 7. So now we just have some division to do. So we'll go ahead and set that division up over off the side here. 7 into 220. So 7 goes into 22 3 times, and we have 1 left over. 7 goes into 10 1 time with 3 left over. And I'm going to leave it as a mixed number here. So 31 3/7. So oftentimes when we're dealing with measuring things like a window or something, so that we leave things as fractions, especially when we're dealing in units like feet. And so 31 3/7 feet is the distance around this window, and that's the circumference. And so we'll put in feet for our units there. Another one, a builder is putting in a circular garden. Find the circumference by using 22/7 as an estimate for pi. It says this time the radius is 5. Now, the radius goes from the center to the curve of the circle. So note that they said radius this time. So when we do this, we need to double that radius to find out what the diameter is. So our circumference, we're going to do 2r times pi. 2r to find out what the diameter is. So let's go ahead and substitute our number in there. 2 times by 5 pi. So we get 10 pi once again. We get the same exact number as we had over here. So we already know what this answer is going to end up being. 10 pi, well, we already did that. We're doing 22/7 again. 10 over 1 times 22 over 7. That just makes 220 all over 7. We already know that answer is 31 3/7. So we'll just go ahead and write that one down. 31 3/7. Are the units the same? No, they're not. They're yards this time. So we got to put a different set of units. So that's an approximate there. And let's take a look at our next set of directions. Find each missing value to the nearest hundredth for exercises 6 through 9. And then use 3.14 this time. So this time we're using a different estimate for pi, the decimal form. So we want to find out what the circumference is for this problem. See, that's what the C stands for, circumference. So our formula goes circumference equals diameter times by pi. So this time the diameter is 1. So we're going to do 1 times by pi. So that's the exact answer, 1 pi. So now we're going to go ahead and multiply 1 times by 3 14/100. Well, that's not so hard. 1 times by 3 just makes 3 14/100. So that would be our answer. 3 14/100 inches is our solution. Taking a look at the next one, though, we only have the radius. See, this is r equals 3. So our formula to find is diameter times pi, but since we don't have the diameter, I need to find the diameter by doubling the radius. So I'm going to use 2r pi. And so I do 2 times 3. So we go 2 times by 3 pi. So we do that work, we get 6 pi. And when we go ahead and multiply out the 6 times by 3 14/100, well, we got to just do the work. We got 6 off to the side here. I do 3 14/100 times by 6. So 6 times 4 makes 24. Carry a 2, that makes 8. This makes 18. Move the decimal back 2 spaces, so 1, 2. So we get our 18 84/100 meters is our solution. A student in England created a world's largest yo-yo. Its diameter is 10 feet long. So just picture this here. We've got this yo-yo here. Typically it fits in your hand, but this one goes all the way across through the center. That distance is 10 feet. That equals the diameter. What is the circumference of the yo-yo? Okay, well actually this is another one that we've already got an answer for because we've done this before. They just have different words here. So remember, our circumference formula is diameter times by pi. So we're going to go ahead and stick that diameter in there. It's 10. 10 times by pi. So we know that 10, and we're going to use 3.14 this time rather than the 22/7. So let's see how close our answer is when we do this. So we have the mixed number form here. Here we're going to come up with a decimal form. Well, the nice thing about multiplying by 10 is it moves the decimal 1 space over. So you see how it's 3 14/100? Well, our answer in this case is just going to be 31 4/10. So we knew it would be 31. 3/7 is about 42 or 43/100, so that's pretty close. So we would say 31 4/10 feet. It's quite a yo-yo. Well, let's take a look at our next one here. The Mayels telescope at Kitt Peak National Observatory in Arizona has a lens that's 2 meters in radius. Okay, so let's draw a picture of what we've got here. Here's our lens. From the center to the curve of the circle is 2 meters. And so it says this glass lens is covered with a thin sheet of reflective aluminum. What is the circumference of the aluminum sheet? So it's covering it, so it's a perfect circle, just fits right on top of it. And so we want to find that circumference again. So this time we are given the radius. So we need to do 2 times by the radius, and then times by pi. So the circumference equals 2r, and And so r is, again, 2 times by pi, which makes 4 pi. And so now we got to set up our problem. So they said to use 3 and 1400ths. So we're going to do 3 and 1400ths times by 4. So that makes 16. Carry a 1. 4 and 1 make 5. And carry a no carrying here. 3 and 4 make 12. Move the decimal 2 spaces to the left. So 12 and 5600ths. So there's our answer, 12 and 5600ths. And these are meters. Meters because they say meters here. Well, those are the types of problems you'll see on tonight's homework. Good luck.